So I want you to know that Scripture does not tell us specifically how to fill the roles of our vocational lives. It leaves room for creativity there. What Scripture does tell us is to replace our understanding of our vocational lives as culturally defined with those same vocational roles as Christ defined. Scripture instructs us to do something like prayerfully ask the question, how would Jesus go about my work if he were in my place? I heard the story of a local mother of 5 who wrestled with guilt because she took Jesus' teachings on proximity to the poor really seriously. And she would ask herself questions like, if Jesus was in Portland today, surely he would be found at the street corner, among the houseless and with the addicted, right? And I have to say, as a pastor, I agree with that sentiment, generally speaking. I certainly think that that is where Jesus could and would be found. But she also struggled because working the line at the soup kitchen just seemed impossible for her because she was working the line in her own kitchen, feeding 5 children. And then one day it just hit her that her own kids, they're always needing something. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I spilled my juice. I need help going to the bathroom. I'm bored. Play with me. They were helpless without her. They were needy. And so she began to recognize the face of Jesus, not in the stranger, but in the familiar faces of her own 5 crazy little ones. And she began to treat them as Jesus treated the vulnerable on the pages of the Gospels. And she heard Jesus say to her, not in some extraordinary environment she ventured off to, but in the common environment that she occupied day in and day out in her workplace. She heard Jesus speaking to her through the voices of her children. When was I thirsty and you offered me a cup to drink? When was I lonely and you comforted me? When was I naked and you clothed me? When was I lost and you invited me in? See, that mom, she had to overcome the lie that spirituality happens in environments other than her most common one. And it was then that she discovered vocation, not by changing what she was doing, but by changing how she was doing what she was already doing. Finding that God was not beyond her every day, but right within her every day. This was not a new work to do. It was a new way to do the work she was already doing. See, everything we do, even the most menial common tasks, I'm talking about things like laundry and cooking and running errands and paying bills and going to work, they can become holy activities. If we prayerfully invite God into them, if we open our eyes to the people that they affect, if we find the most redemptive aspect of them and lean with all of our weight into that. Brother Lawrence, in his classic, The Practice of the Presence of God, said, our sanctification does not depend on changing our works, but in doing that for God's sake, which we commonly do for our own. This is a Christ-defined way to be a mom, to be an executive, to be a restaurant server or a general contractor or a receptionist. Richard Foster writes, he is, you see, the Lord of all vocations, and he really can teach us how to fulfill our calling. If you are a dentist, Jesus can teach you to do dentistry as he would do it if he were you. The same is true if you're a court stenographer, a computer programmer, a research scientist, a janitor, or the CEO of a multinational corporation. It is just as true if the thing you do to produce good in the world is to raise a family, or paint pictures, or create stained glass windows, or peel potatoes. Whoever, whatever, wherever, he will teach you. Learn from him. That, friends, is the vocational story that we're given in Scripture.